Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Season 8, Episode 34, overall of 419th episode of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call, 519-824-0210, or email them at info@barrycullen.com. As always, Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is on weeknights from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern on radio station WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, the home of Southern Talk and Sports. I hope everyone's doing well on this hot, humid Thursday, August 1st, 2024 here in Southern Ontario, and I'm looking forward to my guest tonight. This is his fifth appearance, third overall in my 419 episodes, and I'm looking forward to having my guest on tonight. I shouldn't say former, but he's a longtime radio personality with WGR 550 in Buffalo, and for those who remember his TV days with the Empire Sports Network, his name is Howard Simon, and he was just recently inducted into the 2024 Buffalo Broadcaster Hall of Fame, which will be taking place, I believe, September 19th in Williamsville. And I'm excited to have Howard Simon on, and we're going to talk a little bit about his Hall of Fame introduction and a little bit about the New York Mets and maybe a little Buffalo Bills talk as well. Good afternoon, Howard. How are you?
You can call me former, Chris. I like being a former talk show.
Okay.
Much like, yes.
How is life treating you, Howard?
Super. Yeah, a lot less stress when you don't have to worry about Buffalo sports teams and talk about them every day for 4 hours. Life's a lot happier.
By the way, I want to say congratulations in being inducted into the Buffalo Broadcasting Hall of Fame for the class of 2024.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chris. That's a pretty cool honor. I'm going in with some incredibly amazing names, and I'm going to be alongside guys that I learned how to do this business by watching and listening to them when I first got to Buffalo.
How many years were you in radio and TV, Howard, approximately?
I started my first professional job was 1984. So I was in broadcasting for a little shy of 39 years.
Wow.
Most of it was radio, except you mentioned Empire. So that would have run for about a 6-year stretch from 96 to 02. So other than that, it was all exclusively radio.
How did you like your time at Empire Sports Network?
I loved it. We had a great time. I was excited. I had never done television before, Chris, so I wanted to see what life was like there. It was a new challenge that I think I needed at the time. So, and it was a new venture too. So I kind of got in on the ground floor. Empire was around, but they did very basic programming. And then all of a sudden they decided to incorporate this new show called Fan TV, which is basically a radio talk show on television. But they decided to do this. It was brand new. They went and hired a lot of people, brought in a brand new staff. So it was kind of cool to be in there from day one with a new experiment that had never really been done here in Western New York. And the people were great. There were a very, very young group of people, extremely talented, and worked their butts off to really produce a lot of tremendous local content sports-wise.
Do you see another sports network coming to Buffalo again in the future? I know you guys have MSG Plus, but I was just wondering.
Yeah, I don't think so, Chris. I don't know the financials, but it's not cheap to run a regional sports network. There's a lot of costs involved, from talent to hiring behind the scenes people to, we were covering, the Sabres would make the playoffs. We'd send crews on the road. We'd go to every Bills road game. We would do shows, post-game shows. Monday Night Football, we do pre-game shows. So there's travel expenses, there's hotels, there's food. There's a whole bunch of stuff. We covered Super Bowls. So we did a lot. It would be hard, I think, for someone to do that here locally because of the cost involved. And remember, Empire was owned by Adelphia Cable. Adelphia Cable would charge, when they charged their subscribers, part of that monthly fee was money that basically helped cover the costs of Empire Sports Network. It's kind of like, you pay your cable company for ESPN or whatever, some of the other channels, because they get charged by ESPN to carry that. So Empire got money back, Adelphia got money through subscriptions to cover some of Empire, it'd be really, really hard, I think, for a company to come in and start a regional sports network and run it here now, because the revenue where would you get all the money? The revenue would be the biggest concern.
Good point. Howard, I wanted to ask you this question as well. Who broke the news to you about the Buffalo Broadcasting Hall of Fame, and just thoughts on some of the other class of 2024 going in with you?
Yeah, I'm looking at the names down there, and I know Mary Travers Murphy through John. I really don't know Shred and Reagan. I know who they are, obviously. I know who Nick Bakay is. So there's a few people I know on the list. So it's a really good group to go in with. I got a call. There's a guy by the name of Steve Monaco who's involved with the Broadcaster Association. I knew I was a finalist. They had told me that someone had nominated me and I was on the ballot, and then there was going to be voting. And that's the last I heard. And then I'm sitting at home watching TV. My phone rings. It's Steve Monaco, and he's calling to tell me that I thought he was calling to tell me that, hey, just wanted you to know you fell a little bit short, but there's always next year. And he called me to tell me that I was going in. And so, yeah, it was pretty exciting news. I was pretty pumped.
Yeah, you're my first Hall of Fame broadcaster to come on my show now.
First of many, I'm sure, for you.
Actually,
right?
two. Second, John Murphy. John Murphy's already in there.
I got to tell you, I'm okay being second to Murph. That's really good company to be in.
Just quick thoughts on him stepping down as the Bills play-by-play guy, obviously due to health reasons.
Yeah, and he's getting better. He's feeling a lot better. He looks great. I saw him when they actually had the press conference to announce the class of 24 for the Broadcasting Hall of Fame. Mary, of course, his wife, is going into class. So Murph was there. So I had a chance to talk to him, and he sounds much better. He's lost a ton of weight. He really looks great. His attitude is super. But, he's got a long road back from the stroke. He still does not. You can understand everything he says, Chris. Honestly, from where he was a year earlier to where he was back in April, I think he's made tremendous improvement, which is great. But it's another thing to be able to have to stand there for 3 hours, 3.5 hours, do play-by-play of a football game. That is not an easy thing to do. And I think Murph knew at this point it was just still a little bit too much of a challenge. So he decided to step away, which is, it's sad. There's a lot of people here who grew up with Murph. I always looked up to Murph in our business. I think he's one of the guys I modeled myself after. And I know I did. I used to listen to him every night when he was at WBEN. And I think, Chris, for a lot of Bills fans, they basically grew up with Van Miller as the voice. And for most of that, or at least half, I guess, of Van Miller's time, Murph was right next to him in the broadcast booth. And when then Van retired, the natural progression was, hey, the guy next to him, who everybody loves, make him the play-by-play guy. So the broadcast never missed a beat. So I think from that standpoint, it's a little sad that there's an end of that Van Murph era, if you will. But Chris Brown's tremendous. He does a great job on the games. He's extremely knowledgeable. And I think that's an outstanding choice by the Bills. I think Chris is going to absolutely continue what's been a really successful run of voices of the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, the word that comes to mind with Chris Brown from an outsider's point of view is professional, and he's well prepared, and he obviously loves the Bills too. But I think he does. I think he does a really good job, and just has to be himself and not try to be somebody else that he's not.
No, and I'm with you. I think I respect Chris's work a great deal. It's funny. It's kind of funny, but it's kind of sad. Chris Brown was hired by Empire Sports Network right before the network went under. Chris was hired to come over. We knew Adelphia was in trouble. The Regises, all that stuff was going on. So basically, I told people, look, we can't guarantee we're going to be around. If you have another job offer, take it. So Chris was actually at Empire and was going to be with us. And he realized there's no job security. So he ended up taking the job with the Bills, and it worked out obviously for the best for him. But, having known Chris, I'll tell you, here's how much I respect Chris. Every year when I would get ready for training camp, I would always read Chris, and the Bills website would always do a countdown to training camp feature. And there would be like 20, 25 stories, different angles leading in the few weeks leading up to camp. Every year, I read every single one of those stories from Chris Brown, because if I felt if I read Chris's camp previews, I knew everything I needed to know about the Bills going to training camp. He's that good.
And you're going to have Eric Wood back and Sal on the sideline. So these guys have worked together for the last couple years together, and I think the broadcast will just continue to be excellent.
Yeah, I think there's a good chemistry there. I mean, obviously, Eric has done a fantastic job transitioning from player to broadcaster. And of course, he knows the game, he knows the Bills, the fans love him. And Sal is Sal. Sal is a guy who works really hard at his chore at his job as well. Outstanding on the sideline, eats, lives, breathes radio and Bills football and Buffalo sports. So yeah, I think we'll all miss Murph. I'm glad he's doing better, but the three guys that are in place, I think, make for a really solid broadcast going forward.
By the way, Howard, Buffalo is like my second home. Not just with the guys from your area coming on my show, but doing some media coverage of the Bisons and Bandits, and I really enjoy coming down there. And like I said, if I'm lucky enough to get a radio job, the Buffalo, Western New York area would be one of the areas would like to work in, because everybody always says how friendly people are in the Western New York area.
Oh, it's outstanding. I was thinking about this the other day, and how you never know where life is going to lead you, right? I mean, I'm not from here originally, but I went to college here, and after a few years working in other cities, I wound up coming back here for a job in 1989, and I've been here ever since. And I was thinking about, how lucky am I that life put me in Western New York, because it's a great place to live. I married a local gal. We raised our son here. It's a wonderful place to raise a family. It's a great sports town with passionate sports fans. And if you're fortunate enough to work in the market, in the media, that's the other thing. I made so many amazing friendships from all the radio stations and Empire, all the places I worked at. Chris, everybody is in our business, in the media, are just the greatest people. They're really nice to get along. Yeah, there's competitiveness, right? We're all competing for ratings and stories, but I think everybody has a very healthy deal of respect for each other. And I learned a lot from other media members here. It is a very good broadcast market to work in.
And I've been really lucky with covering the CFL Grey Cup last year in Hamilton, and I cover the Toronto Argonauts and the NFL draft. I was at this year as a media member, and man, one day in Detroit, I never seen so many people in my life and so many cameras. It was overwhelming for this rookie still to the industry, but it was such a great experience.
Yeah, it's good. I've never covered on site an NFL draft, so I haven't. I mean, I can watch it on TV, and I see now. Of course, now they're doing it in different cities. They always used to just do it in New York. So I've never experienced. I've seen Detroit, Nashville, whatever, all the places they've taken the draft on the road, and it just looks like a sea of humanity, which is really amazing. But I guess I should never be amazed by anything the NFL touches, because everything it touches turns to gold, and I think they know that.
Absolutely. But we have a reviewer on, and he wanted to say hi. His name is Robbie Schneider. He has his own podcast, the 716 Sports Blizzard podcast in Buffalo, and he just wanted to say, great guy you got there, Chris. Go Bills, go Mets.
Yeah. All right. I'll take both of those, because knock on wood, the Mets are not as bad as I thought they were going to be. And I know we'll talk more about the Bills. I think the Bills are still a playoff team, and we'll just see where it goes from there.
Yeah. Hey, finally about the Hall of Fame. How can my audience, if they're interested in watching or listening, purchase tickets for this 2024 class, which I believe takes place Thursday, September 19th at the Samuels Grand Manor in Williamsville?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't know. We're still waiting to hear from the Hall of Fame committee about how tickets work, and
Okay.
getting a table for friends and family and all that. But if you go, I assume, if it's not there already, I haven't even checked. If it's not there already, if you go to their website, the Broadcaster Association website, there might be information on the dinner. The date's right, the location's right. I just don't have any of the details on it.
Okay. Hey, Howard, are you still helping out with the Buffalo Bisons occasionally down at the ballpark?
I am. I'm part of a 3-person rotation that they use to run the pitch clock.
And one of the guys is Bud Bailey, who's been on my show a number of times. Bud's like an encyclopedia of Buffalo sports.
He is, and because the first time I first met Bud, I think when I got here, I might have the years wrong, but anyway, I got here in '89. I started covering the Sabres, and I believe that is at the time Bud Bailey was working for the Sabres in the media relations department. So I would have gotten to know him over my time covering the hockey team. But yeah, I run into Bud every now and then at the games, and He is. He's got such a deep knowledge of Buffalo sports. He has a new book out. I apologize. I don't know the title, but he just put out a new book about the Buffalo Braves, I believe. So in
Yes.
fact, I was talking to him. I saw him at the ball game last week, and I was talking to him about the book. I want to get a copy of it so I can read up on the Braves, because I was not here when the Braves were playing in the 70s.
I have a copy of it digitally because his co-author Greg Tanter came on my show last year
Oh,
as
very
well,
good.
and I grew up in the '70s, and I remember some of their games were actually played at Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto in the mid '70s.
I had no idea. I did not.
Yes,
If I knew it, I forgot it. But I was watching some special on YouTube about the Braves and all the trouble they had scheduling dates at the odd, because they were third on the pecking order. You know, the Sabres got the pick of the litter, and then Canisius College had played their basketball games down at the odd. So the Braves were third pick in terms of what nights they could use. And I had no idea, Chris, that the guy said when they didn't play at the odd, they had a few select games at Maple Leaf Gardens. I did not realize that.
long before the Raptors came in,
Yeah, right.
they were looking back in the '70s at Toronto as a possible NBA
Uh,
franchise. Obviously, they waited until 1995, but I love reading books like that, stories of defunct franchises
yeah.
and stuff like that. The Braves are now the LA Clippers, obviously, and finally have their own first arena. I don't think they've ever had their own arena, even when they were in San Diego, and most of the time they were in LA, they shared with the Lakers.
It's a good question. I don't even know, like, where would they have played in San Diego? Um,
It's the San Diego Memorial Coliseum, some
oh,
arena there, but I don't think it was
it
their
wasn't
arena either.
specifically for them. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I really don't know, but you're right. Now they're in, is it still the Staples Center, or they call it something different now?
They call it they changed the name of it
Changed it.
again.
Yeah,
I
that's okay. I can't keep up with it.
crypto.com center.
Sure. Why not?
Crypto.com.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they got a $2 billion arena, so
Worked
interesting.
out.
But
Yeah.
hey, I'm hopefully I'll see you guys in a couple weeks because I'm gonna come up and do a couple more games against Omaha. So hopefully I'll get to run into you or Bud, because I always like talking to Bud and listening to what he has to say.
Yeah. He's, like I said, because of his knowledge. I look, that's part, as I said, I didn't grow up here. So when you work as a sports talk show host, you know this, Chris, when you come to a market that you're not familiar with, maybe you didn't grow up there as a sports fan, it's a good idea to learn the history of the franchises, because I think that helps you develop a relationship with your listeners, who most of them, many of them, are born and raised in Buffalo and Western New York. So, I mean, I wasn't here for the Braves. I wasn't here for when the Sabres were born. You know, all that. I got here in '80, gone in '84, returned in '89. So I always enjoyed talking to the veteran reporters, the guys like the great Larry Felser from the Buffalo News. The guys who were around here and knew all the stories of the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, all the stuff before I got here. I would always make sure I just sat and picked their brains or talked to Bud about the Braves, whatever. I always found that an incredible resource for me and a fountain of information, because I didn't live through that stuff. But if it ever came up on a show or someone had a question, I could, help. It would help me, allow me to answer that question or relate to the listeners, the sports fans here, even though I wasn't here to see it. I'm learning about it. I always thought that was it was helpful to me to do my job, to talk to the Bud Baileys of the world.
And that's what I love about doing my radio show and my podcast and my media work. Every day I learn something new, especially from this show. My guests have great stories, but I always learn. And one thing about media, Howard, doesn't matter how good you are in the industry. Every day something changes, and you need to keep learning and keep improving.
Yeah, look, that's why I always like getting. I know a talk show is the talk show host and the callers. I get it. That's how it's based. But I always like getting guests on, because it just, what you just said. We learn. I learn more. If you get a national NFL guest on, you learn maybe a little bit more about what's going on around the league, or you learn about the perception of Buffalo outside Western New York, or you get reporters on from other teams. The Bills are playing Miami, get a Dolphins guest on that week. So I always found the guest segments, I booked them, I'll be honest with you, it's from a selfish standpoint, because it helped me be up on other teams in the NHL, other teams in the NFL, what else is going on outside of our little bubble here in Western New York. So I always like getting guests on because I learn just listening to everybody. You can learn, like you said, learning never stops. I don't care how long you're in the business or how long you've had the job, how long you've been in the market. Learning never stops. You should be learning and evolving every day.
Absolutely. And Howard, since I got you on for about another 10 minutes, and I know how big of a New York Mets fan you are, overall thoughts on this 2024 Mets team that seems to have
I gotta
turned
get
it around?
my Edwin Diaz bobblehead. Look at that
My
baby.
friend, wow, my friend Cheryl in New Jersey would love that. She's one of the biggest Mets fans out there. That's
Can you hear it?
awesome.
It's playing the Timmy trumpet.
Awesome.
I probably shouldn't have done that. Nope,
That's awesome.
Sorry. It's pretty cool. All right.
Did you get that at City Field?
Someone got it for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, I've got a collection of 4 Mets bobbleheads, and a replica of the Tom Seaver statue that they put out in front of City Field a few years ago.
Wow.
So,
Hey,
yeah.
speaking of the Mets, I was in Buffalo a couple weeks ago when the Syracuse Mets were there, and I got to interview their announcer Michael Tricarico, and
cool.
I'm gonna try to go up to Syracuse and see if they'll let me cover the team for a couple games and just learn about the Syracuse stadium and the Mets franchise and stuff like that.
Yeah, I worked I think 3 games in that series. Actually, Brett Beatty was here for that series. He's down from the Mets. He was ripping the cover off the ball. He was just killing Bison's pitchers. But some of the guys, Cunha, Gilbert, I'm trying to think if there's anybody else. Some of the guys who were picked up in the sell-off trades last year, I think Gilbert would have come in the Verlander deal. I forget where Cunha came from. But when they were moving all the veteran guys last year, and they got some good prospects in return, a couple of them were here when Syracuse was in town. So it's kind of neat to see how they're doing and track what's going on with those guys because, knock on wood, they'll be a big part of the future soon at Citi Field.
And what's the Phillies going? The Phillies are doing an Eagles collapse right now in baseball. The Mets are only, I think, 8 games behind them now, and they've really turned around. Yeah. So what's been the biggest turnaround with this Mets? Is it just the new manager or what? But this team has really been playing good baseball lately.
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I think for one, the biggest problem they had, and I honestly did not think they would have a winning record this season. I really had no thoughts of them making the playoffs. I thought it was kind of a transitional year, and I really thought because they would end up having one of the worst pitching staffs in Major League Baseball because their starting rotation was in shambles. The best guy they had, Cody Senga, got hurt in training in spring training, so he just got back, pitches 1 game, and suffers a calf strain. Now he's probably out for the rest of the regular season. So I didn't think their pitching would hold up. So the pitching was not doing well, Chris. The problem is the batting order, which should be fine. It's a good, they have good position player talent. But there were guys that were not hitting well the first month of the season. Lindor especially, and Alonso, and some of the key bats. McNeil just heated up in the last month. So coupled with the bad pitching, the hitting wasn't good enough, which is why these guys were 12 games under, whatever they were a few months ago. Now the bats start to come around and the pitching gets a little better. The starting rotation gets stabilized a little bit. They're getting more, very good performances from their starters. The bullpen, I think, was still a little bit of an issue, which is why the Mets made a series of moves by the deadline to get some relievers in here a little bit. So that's kind of leveled off, which is why they're playing better. The hitting went up, and then the pitching kind of leveled off. I want to say they're maybe 10th or 11th in ERA, so they're not great, but they're not at the bottom of the NL, which is good. So far they're hanging in there. I think when all's said and done, they're probably about a 500 or maybe a handful of games over 500 type of team this season. But hey, they're in the wild card race, so I'll take it.
What do you think of them staying pretty well pat at the trade deadline?
Yeah, I was kind of hoping for a big move in terms of a starting pitcher. And like I said, in hindsight now, Senga going down. If Senga would have come back and been healthy and looked like he did last year, essentially that would have been like trading for a big starting pitcher at the deadline. He comes in, he has 1 outing, he looks great, and then he strains his calf getting out of the way of a pop-up. So I'm still a little concerned about the rotation, but I think they made moves to help the bullpen. They also made moves to help their depth. They brought in Jesse Winker to help their offense. So I thought they weren't like, holy mackerel, did you see who the Mets traded for moves? But they made good baseball moves that make them a better baseball roster.
And I believe the Mets are off tonight, but I believe they're on the road
Out
against
west.
the
Yep.
against the Angels. So that's
Yep.
a big series. They need to basically, I think, for the rest of the year to try to take 2 out of 3 out of every series.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams in the wild card. I know you mentioned the Phillies. I haven't even checked the standings because I didn't realize the Phillies. I know they just got swept by the Yankees, but I mean, a few weeks ago the Phillies were just running away with the division. The Braves are so beat up; they're not going to be a factor. So I still don't think the Mets are good enough to catch the Phillies. I think the Phillies are the best team easily in the NL East division. So I don't think about that. So I'll think about wild card. And there's just now the Padres have turned their season around, so
They're
they're back.
playing good baseball. Yes.
Yeah, and that's why I think that's going to be a really tight race going down the stretch.
It's a marathon season, and people right now in Philly are panicking because this Phillies last month is reminding them of what happened to the Eagles last year,
Right.
who
Yeah.
started the season 10-1 and then just fell apart in the second half. So they're getting a little nervous in Philadelphia.
Well, I think every team goes through a funk. Look, the Yankees just went through a month-long slump. Basically, they went from one of the best records in baseball for about a 30-day stretch to the second worst record in the majors. Only I think the White Sox were playing worse than the Yankees. So I get it. And it looked like the Yankee season was falling apart. They made a bunch of moves at the deadline. Now all of a sudden their bats have come around. They're scoring 7 runs a game, and they seem to have steadied themselves and should be okay going forward. So I'm sure it's so hard. At the level of ball, the winning percentage the Phillies and the Yankees were at, man, to do that over 162 games is near impossible. Every team, no matter how good you are, you're probably going to hit some slumps. Couple weeks, maybe a month. So I'm guessing the Phillies are just going through that, but they have a really good lineup. They've got a deep starting rotation. I would be stunned if this thing lasts much longer. I would assume they'll snap out of it eventually.
Yes or no? Do you see the Mets getting in a wild card?
See, now, Chris, this is the problem with being a Mets fan. See, you're asking a Mets fan that question. You should never ask a Mets fan that question because Mets fans are fatalistic individuals largely because we know, like the Senga incident, right? Hey, the Mets are playing well. Look at this. They swept the Yankees at Yankee Stadium. Hey, Senga's back. Oh, he hurt himself trying to get away from a pop-up. Mets fans always think when things are going well, that's when the baseball gods will smack us down. So I am going to think like a fatalistic Mets fan and tell you, no, they won't make the wild card because I don't want to set myself up to be disappointed.
Sounds like Toronto Maple Leaf fans.
Ooh, I never really thought of it that way. I always think of it as I guess you could say, yeah, I guess so. Just when you think it, you really, really believe it's gonna be, they just find a way to break your heart.
They'll let
So
you down. Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad they're hanging around. It's not really that hard to get one of the 3 wild card spots in either league rather. So it's doable, Chris. But yeah, I don't know. I think they have a shot at it for sure. But I really don't think about it much because that's when the Mets fan in me realizes I'm just going to get my heart broken. So don't go there.
Just quick thoughts on the Mets manager Carlos Mendoza and GM David Stearns.
Yeah,
Streams. I'm
yeah.
not sure if he's the interim GM or he's going to be the permanent GM going forward.
No, he's their guy. I think they like him. They were
Okay.
trying to get him for a couple years when he was in Milwaukee. That there've been talk for the last few years that ever since Steve Cohen took over, they wanted to get Stearns when his contract was up. So I think he's their guy. Like I said, I think he's done a nice job. I think he's put together a good roster. As I said, I think the pitching staff could be better, but they have some young arms. They have some young position player prospects. I don't think they have as many pitching prospects in the system. So that needs to change. His tweaks at the deadline, I think, were good. So I like what the general manager has done. Mendoza's fine, Chris. I mean, I was a big Showalter fan. I was actually disappointed to see him let go. I think there's a little bit of scapegoating going on there. I thought he was a good manager. Mendoza's he seems to be handling it better than I thought a rookie manager would handle it. So he's doing a good job.
I like the fact they have a nice bench coach in John
Yeah.
Gibbons, the former
Yeah.
Met catcher and Blue Jay manager who is still popular in Toronto. I thought having him on the bench helps as well.
I think you see a lot of teams. I don't have a number for you, but I feel like, especially with a first-time manager, a rookie manager, I think a lot of teams feel comfortable having that bench coach in place, that veteran guy, been there, done this, and is there to help you out, bounce ideas off him, whatever. I think that does help a first-time manager go through all the various challenges they have to deal with over the course of the season.
Hey, Howard, do you have just a couple more minutes just for a couple quick Bills questions?
Sure.
Okay, I know you're not attending training camp, but just quick thoughts on the 2024 Buffalo Bills and what the mood is like of the fan base and media heading into this season.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting. It's a little hard for me to tell you about the mood of the fan base. Quite honestly, I'm not connected. I'm not going to lie. I do not listen to the radio every day. I Once I stopped doing this, I really needed to get away and kind of not worry about all this stuff. So without actually talking to the fans on a daily basis, it's really hard for me to tell you the mood. I see what I get on Twitter, responses that I get to some tweets. I think people are still feeling good about this team. I don't know if they feel, I'll speak for me. I don't feel where I was the last 3 years in training camp. The last 3 years, I was confident, 100% confident. The Bills were a good enough team to get to and win a Super Bowl. Now, I'm not 100% confident. I'm 100% confident they're a playoff team. I'm close to 100% confident they're still the team to beat in the AFC East. But there are too many questions for me right now, all across the board, for me to sit here and tell you, yep, they can go on a run and win the Super Bowl. Are they capable of it? Yeah, as long as Josh Allen is healthy, yeah, they're capable of doing anything, quite honestly. But my mood is a little bit more, I've lowered my expectations a little bit just because I think there are so many questions that need to be answered. I think losing Diggs was big. I know, I guess he'd become an issue in the room and all this other stuff. And they're talking about everybody's going to eat. They're all going to get the ball. Wonderful. He's a legit number one receiver on a team that thrives. When it thrives because of its passing offense. So I think that, how the receiver group shakes out is a big story and what kind of passing game they're going to have. A couple different starters on the offensive line. No Leonard Floyd. Von Miller needs to look like he did 2 years ago. Trey White's gone. The two safeties are gone. I think there are enough things that I look at and go, they're still good. They're a playoff team, and maybe they'll be good enough at the end of the season to go on a run and win a Super Bowl. But as I sit here today, I have to see them prove it to me over the course of the season for me to say, yep, Kansas City, San Francisco, whoever you have at the top of the league, throw Buffalo in there again. They haven't left.
What do you figure was the biggest reason he wanted out of Buffalo? And do you feel if the Bills had won that 13-second game against Kansas City, hypothetically, and gotten to the Super Bowl, Diggs would still be here in Buffalo?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I honestly think it sounds like it was both ways. I'm sure Diggs reached a point where he was getting a little frustrated. Pretty sure the Bills were getting frustrated with Stephon Diggs. So it was probably one of those things where mutually agreed it was time to separate. But like I said, I think he's a tremendous football player. And I don't think you just, I think there's an element of, you try and convince yourself rather than be, worried about the loss of a key player. We all kind of convince ourselves, don't worry about it. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. And he wasn't that good over the last half of last season, which he wasn't. His numbers plummeted over the last half of the season. And, you look for these stats and things to go, it's okay. They won't miss him. They'll miss him. His numbers are among the best in terms of receivers in the history of the Buffalo Bills franchise. So I think both sides probably felt it was time to move on. From a business standpoint, from a cap standpoint, it will help him down the road. But I was not a fan of the move. So we'll just see how it works out. But I think it was probably time for him to find someplace else to play and from the Bills to just kind of part ways with him.
When I had Sal on a couple weeks ago, he said the Bills are expecting a lot out of Keon Coleman. Usually with a rookie receiver, they want to slowly break him in. But I guess the team and the franchise drafting him so high, they're kind of going to put a little more expectations on him to produce in Diggs' absence.
Yeah, and I don't think that's unfair. I know it's a difficult position to learn. It's tough to learn an offensive playbook in the NFL, but you do have Josh Allen as your quarterback, and he's really good. And I think if you look in recent years, you look at some of the numbers. I remember looking at the guys from last year's first round, Chris. I don't have the list in front of me. Not the kid, not Johnston with the Chargers. He had a down year. Zay Flowers had a big year. Oh, I'm trying to remember the guy in Seattle, and his name totally escapes me. Is that Smith and Jigba? I think he's in Seattle. Anyway,
Okay.
there were like 3 first-round receivers last year who had some great stats. I think you're seeing more in recent years. Rookie receivers able to come in, play right away, and contribute, as opposed to 30 catches, 300 yards, or lower numbers and work their way up. So I think it's fair to say that Keon Coleman could come in and hopefully have 1,000-yard season. I mean, if he is as good as the Bills believe he is, he would be the clear number one receiver in this group. So if he is, then he should put up some really good numbers because the quarterback's going to get him the football.
And look at Kansas City last year. Obviously, Travis Kelce's an amazing tight end, but they really did it with wide receiver by committee last year.
Yeah, and I think that's what right now. I think that's what the Bills are doing. Right, there is no go-to guy. Clearly, it was Diggs. There was a pecking order. It was Diggs. It was Davis, and then whoever. Shakir last year. There is no clear number one target. In fact, you could make the case when all is said and done, a lot of people think Dalton Kincaid could end up leading this team in receptions this season with how good he looked last year. We'll see if Knox stays healthy. We'll see what happens with Kincaid's targets. But yeah, I think clearly you're looking at throw the guys in a hat, Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir. Let's see, Curtis Samuel. I would assume Curtis Samuel. That's their top 3. And then who knows? Does Claypool make the team?
I'm not sold on Claypool. I'm not
yeah,
sold
I'm
on
not
him.
either. But you know what? He's worth a shot. It's not a big contract. It's not
Low
a ton
risk.
of money. Bring him in, see what he does. Right. Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I think he's good. I think he'll make the roster. Mac Hollins. But now you're talking about, whatever, guys that have just kind of been in the NFL, don't have eye-popping numbers, but are good and can give you a well-rounded receiving core.
By the way, one of my viewers, her name's Tiffany Estelle. She has her own podcast show, Tea Time with Tiffany. She's a huge Bills fan. She said Puka is with Rams.
Yeah.
Puka.
Don't ask me to
with
pronounce
Rams.
his full name, but he had a great rookie year.
Absolutely. And finally, Howard, I wanted to ask you this question as well before we wrap this up. Just quick thoughts on the new stadium. It's looking like it's coming along, and some fans are saying it will price out a lot of the Bills Mafia fans as a 2026 and become more of a corporate crowd in the future going to the stadium.
I hope not, because this is traditionally not been a market that is a corporate crowd. This is more of a fan, your everyday fan base crowd drives the Sabres and the Bills, or have been. So we'll see. I think the only thing I would say, the numbers I've seen are eye-popping. I've talked to some people who have club seats, all the expensive seats, and some of the numbers they're talking about with the PSLs are just unbelievable. But I think the only thing I would say is let's wait and see. I'm really curious. They have not gotten to the everyday season ticket holder. Right now, they're just going through the people who pay for the right to be in, like I said, the club seats and the Kelly Club and all the different places in the stadium where you were paying above and beyond for seats and for amenities. When they get to the person who has a couple of seats up in the upper level in row 10, I want to see what the PSLs are for the average season ticket person, non-club seat stuff. Then I think we'll have a better handle on, are they pricing fans out of the stadium? So I don't think they've gotten to that point yet. I don't think they've gotten that far down the list. But I think that's the one to keep an eye on to see if it's, quote, affordable or it's like thousands and thousands of dollars.
Do you have any plans on going to 1 or 2 more games at the current stadium before it closes?
Nope. Been there, done there. Been to plenty. See, I know where it is. I know how it looks. I know how it sounds. It's a really cool place. But no, I'm good just watching games on TV now. I don't need to go anywhere out there.
And finally, I do this with all my guests now, Howard. It's a new segment. What's one fun fact about Howard Simon that the Buffalo listeners might not know about you?
How could they not know anything about me if they listened to the radio show for 18 years, Chris? They know everything about me. They know I don't eat fruit. They know I didn't eat peanut butter until my 50s. They know I wear dad sneakers. They know all the crazy things they need to know about me. There's no fun. I'm a very boring person, Chris. See, that's the problem. Like, if you're looking for a fun fact, I'm the last guy you want to talk to because I'm a fairly boring person with no life. So I got nothing for you. I'm a history nerd. Is that a fun fact? I
Same
love
here.
presidential trivia.
Same here. And
I can
18
name.
years.
I used to. My memory's not as good as it used to be. It would take longer. I used to be able to name the presidents from Washington to the current president
Yeah.
like that. Now it would probably take a little thought.
No chance you'll ever write a book about your career in broadcasting?
Oh God, no, no,
No,
no, no, no,
no.
no. No, it wouldn't sell. That's what I'm telling you. I don't have like a bunch of really cool stories and oh my God, this is really funny and wow, that I wouldn't even know what the heck to put in the darn thing. So absolutely not.
And finally, Howard, where can my audience? What's the best place for my audience to follow you on social media? And I want to again say congratulations on making the Buffalo Broadcasters Hall of Fame class of 2024. I think that's just an amazing accomplishment, and you've had quite the career in the media, right, radio industry and TV industry as well.
So this is how detached I've become from the business, right? I actually had to go to my phone, Chris, to make sure I remembered what my Twitter or X handle is. So I don't tweet very often. I really, I not necessarily have to apologize to people, but I did when I stopped. I really wanted to take a major step back from being that active in sports and watching games, being on my phone and tweeting, and I just really didn't want to do it because I'd done it for 30 years. So you can follow me on Twitter at hsimon62, but I don't tweet that often. And
Okay.
so if you're looking for reactions to every single sporting event from me, it's not going to happen because I'm just kind of enjoying life here and life without getting upset about a sporting event and a team driving me crazy is much nicer.
Yeah, having a favorite sports team can drive your blood pressure up,
Oh,
especially when you get
to
frustrated.
think
I Howard, I'm going to admit, I have mellowed out at 52. Maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when my teams would lose, it would really get me upset. And now
yeah.
I've seemed to mellow out over time.
So here's the problem with that. Okay, first off, you're talking to a guy who roots for the Bills and the Sabres and the Mets. It's not a lot of joy in that.
Well, I'm
So
in
here's the
Detroit.
problem.
Detroit teams haven't been. The Red Wings have struggled for the last 8 years.
That's true.
The Tigers haven't won a World Series in 40
Lions are good
years.
now. Lions are good.
They are the best hope for Detroit. The Lions. I never.
Here's the problem with your line of reasoning. Your line of reasoning is not faulty, right? As you get older, yeah, you would think as you get older, you would learn to not let the outcome of a game drive you as batty as it used to. Honestly, you don't have the energy as you get older, and you don't want to be that angry as you get older. But here's the problem, Chris. I think as you also get older, all right, I'm 62. Like, we don't know how long we have on the planet, right? So as you get older, like 13 seconds hurt more because I thought, well, how many more opportunities will I have? How long am I going to be here? How long will I live to see the Bills or the Sabres or the Mets win a championship? Since there is no guarantee, sure, you might say you're mellowing as you get older, but I think there's a little bit of in the back of your mind, there's a little sense of urgency going on back there. Like, running out of time here, kids. I'm not 25. I'm 62. If someone would like to win something soon, that'd be really nice.
And right now, I still think the Bills have the best chance. But hey, Buffalo does have a champion in the Buffalo Bandits, six-time National Lacrosse League champions,
They
back to
do.
back, and it's a great sport. And I can't wait to go back and cover the Bandits again this year as well.
I always loved, I haven't been there in a while, but when my son Jonathan was growing up, he played lacrosse in school. So I always loved going to the Bandits games with him. It is an amazing atmosphere. I mean, if you've never been to a Bandits game, and I gotta believe I haven't been, I've been to a game, I've been to games in Rochester years ago, but I don't get around the league to the other venues, obviously, Chris. But if you've never been to a Bandits game, this has to be the best atmosphere in the entire National Lacrosse League. No offense to Toronto Rock.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, that place, it gets packed, it gets loud. And I had no idea how it worked. You go there, they got chants. The PA guy is urging the crowd on.
Chris Swenson.
Yeah, Chris does a great job.
Absolutely.
They hurdle insults, nice ones, but insults at the other team. It's just
It's fun.
the music is playing, they get loud, they get excited. It is an electric atmosphere.
And going to a Bison's game is pretty fun too, except the Blue Jays have pretty well taken all the Bison's top
Yeah,
players and brought them up to
right,
Toronto. But the
right.
Bison's do a really good job as well with their in-game presentation and developing players. And Howard, hopefully when I'm up there in a couple weeks, against Omaha, I'll be able to run into you and hopefully Bud as well.
When are you going to be there? What day? You know?
August 20th and the 21st.
All right. I am working on the 20th. So come see me in the press specs. I'll be there running the pitch clock that night.
Awesome. And I'd like to learn. Yeah, I just love coming to the ballpark and talking to people. And like I said, Buffalo has treated me like their second son, and I really enjoy coming there. And I really appreciate your time again, Howard. And I'm so happy for you being introduced into the Buffalo Broadcasting's Hall of Fame. You're as good a person as you are as a broadcaster.
Well, it's nice of you to say. Thank you very much. I really do. Means a lot. Anytime, you know how to find me. And I'm glad to see you're doing well. Show seems to be going pretty good, and you're getting a lot of good guests. So I'm glad to see you're making some inroads there, and hopefully things will work out. You'll end up back here in the market.
It's a grind, but this is something I love doing, and I love doing in-person interviews as well because you have to think on your feet, and I just want to keep improving and getting better every day.
It is a grind, but you know what? If you enjoy doing it, it helps you handle the grind a little bit. It's when you're not enjoying it, the grind wears on you. So it's okay. If you're having fun, who cares how many hours you're putting in? And, if you're working weekends, as long as you're enjoying it, that's all that matters.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much, Howard. And we'll see you on August 20th at the ballpark. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Thanks for asking, Chris. I'm glad you're doing well, and I'll see you at the Bison's game.
Go Mets.
Amen.
All right. Thanks, Howard.
You bet.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed season 8, episode 34, overall 419 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. Today, that was Howard Simon, the former longtime radio broadcaster in Buffalo, New York, with WGR 550 AM for 18 years. And he also did a little TV work for the Empire Sports Network as well. And again, congratulations to Howard Simon into being introduced into the 2024 Buffalo Broadcasters Hall of Fame class, which will take place Thursday, September 19th in Williamsville. And their website for the Broadcasters Hall of Fame, I have it right here, I believe. I will try to find. I got so many graphics here, but I think it's buffalobroadcasters.com. I will get that to you before. But again, I want to say thank you to Howard Simon for coming on here today. Guys, before we wrap up this show, I'm going to play an interview I did with Steve Ayers, the father of Winnipeg Blue Bombers special team player Michael Ayers, just before the Argos Blue Bombers game on this past Saturday night at BMO Fields in Toronto. And it's courtesy of my YouTube channel. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel yet, please hit the subscribe and like notification. Again, this is Steve Ayers. He's a football head coach, a high school football coach in Columbus, Ohio, Michigan Wolverines fan, and he's the father again of Winnipeg Blue Bombers special teamer Michael Ayers. Good afternoon, everybody. Chris Pomey here, radio host of Live with CDP Sports Talk on WQE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia. I'm here with a fan of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and we're going to bring him on now, and we're going to get his thoughts on tonight's matchup between the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and the Toronto Argonauts here at BMO Field. Can I just get your name, sir?
Steve.
Steve, what are your thoughts on tonight's matchup between the Blue Bombers and the Toronto Argonauts?
I feel it's going to be a real good game tonight because both teams, got one team that's on the high end, one team that's kind of on the low end. So I think some things are going to change in the standings tonight.
And you were mentioning to me before your son is on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Can you tell us what his name is and what position he plays?
Of course. His name is Michael Ayers, number 49. He's playing special teams right now, but he's a linebacker. He's a special teams guy right now. And right now he's second in the league in tackles on special teams. 2 weeks ago, we was in Winnipeg. He had the hit of the game where it was against I forget which team it was, but he had to hit it. It was if you go back and check some games, you'll see him get some hits.
Where are you guys from, and what are your thoughts on the CFL in Canada so far?
We're from Columbus, Ohio. We're from the States. CFL football is very exciting. It's an offensive game. Field is bigger, one more player than American football. But they allow them to play. They allow them to hit up here in Canadian football. So it's a little bit more exciting, I feel like, than American football.
How much of an adjustment was it for your son to come to the CFL from the American 4-down game?
After talking to him, he said it was the adjustment of the one extra player. Football's football. Wherever you play that, it's the different terminologies and different schemes. He's been playing football ever since he was 6 years old, so it was kind of an easy adjustment because he has a high football IQ.
What's one word to describe your son as a player?
A juggernaut. He's a juggernaut. He loves to hit. He runs to the ball. He's sitting behind two great veterans in front of him. I believe if he gets opportunity, he will shine in the league.
And what are you looking for in tonight's matchup with the Toronto Argonauts, who are coming off a loss along with Winnipeg? This is a huge game for both teams tonight.
I believe the punt returner who used to be at Winnipeg last year, last name
Giovanni and Jerry and Grant.
Mr. Grant, yes. I told him it's Ayers versus Grant tonight, so I'm excited. I'm selfish. I want us to punt the ball so I can see my son go down and make some tackles against Grant. So it's gonna be exciting, real good.
Have you been able to get up to Winnipeg to a home game yet?
Yes, I have. When it was actually their first win, me and my daughter got a chance to get up there and check out a game. So it was very, very exciting. So Toronto's not too far from us, so we decided to make the job, support the Blue Mobbers, and come to see a win.
How do you see this game shaking out tonight? Obviously for Winnipeg, what kind of a score do you see here?
A lot of the games have been low scoring, a lot of defensive games, kind of a chess match type of game. I see the score being in the 20s, kind of, they got a good kicker. We got a great kicker. So I can see a kicking game.
Hey, I have to ask you this. You mentioned you're from Columbus, Ohio. How did you become a Michigan Wolverines fan in Ohio?
Coming up playing football, I did not get recruited by Ohio State, so that turned me into a Michigan fan.
And thoughts on their championship last year?
Great feeling because all the Buckeye fans were kind of sad, and it's unfortunate that Harbaugh went to the NFL, but it's going to continue. The tradition is going to continue.
And if you're on social media, where can my audience find you on social media?
Me on social media, Coach Ayers 3127.
All right. Well, Stephen, I want to say thank you so much for doing this. And as always, go blue for the Michigan Wolverines. And good luck tonight to your Winnipeg Blue Bombers here at beautiful BMO Field here in Toronto.
All right. Appreciate you.
That was Steve Ayers, the father of Winnipeg Blue Bombers special teamer Michael Ayers as well. And that interview was done pregame before the Argos Winnipeg game Saturday night at BMO Field. If you've never been to a CFL game, check out cfl.ca. Go to a game. It is exciting. And a lot of these games come down to the last play. The Argos won 16-14 in overtime. The first three quarters maybe weren't exciting or great excitement, but the last quarter, the fourth quarter, it was really exciting. And wishing Steve the best in his career as a high school football coach in Columbus, Ohio, and his son is with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And speaking of Michael Ayers, him and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers will be in action tonight at 8:30, taking on Vernon Adams Jr. and the BC Lions. So CFL on TSN, 8:30 tonight, BC Winnipeg. BC comes into this game 5-2, Winnipeg 2-6. Huge game for both teams, especially Winnipeg, who's trying to get back to 500, and they need to start with a big game tonight as well. And the Pro Football Hall of Fame game is tonight too, Thursday, August 1st, I believe, 8 o'clock, I think, from Fawcett Stadium in Canton, Ohio. It's going to be Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears taking on Stephon Diggs and the Houston Texans as well. So we've got CFL Week 9 going on, the NFL training camp and preseason starting, and college football in Canada and the States will be starting in the next few weeks as well. So it's a great time of the year for football fans as well. By the way, guys, if you're interested in attending the Buffalo Broadcasters Hall of Fame class of 2024, which takes place Thursday, September 19th in Williamsville, New York, you can get tickets through their website, buffalobroadcasters.com. buffalobroadcasters.com, and Howard Simon is so well deserving of that award as well. All right, guys, we're going to wrap this show up in a few minutes, but my next live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, sponsored by BarryCollin.com, is going to be Friday, August 2nd at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 on the West Coast, with some special guest stand-up comedian Ginny Sykes. That's Ginny Sykes. She's going to come on and talk about her career as a comedian. And she's also been a journalist and she's an author as well. So, again, tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 on the West Coast, special guest will be stand up comedian Ginny Sykes. And I'm excited to have her on for my 420th episode as well. As always, guys, if you're looking for your forever, I'm going to reword this. If you're looking for your best friend, please check out the Cambridge and District Humane Society at 1650 Dunbar Road in Cambridge, Ontario. You can call them at 519-623-7722. And all the animals and pets that are up for adoption, you can check out their profiles at Cambridge Humane Society .org, and they're also doing a monthly 50-50 draw in support of the Cambridge District Humane Society. You can get your tickets again at cambridgehumanesociety.org. And if you're looking to be a volunteer there like I am, you can fill out a volunteer form through their website, again, cambridgehumanesociety.org as well. And check out Luna, who's been there for a while as well. She's a great dog, and hopefully she'll get adopted. And check out my social media pages as I post some of the dogs that are up for adoption on my social media pages as well. As always, guys, Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is hosted by yours truly, Chris Pomey, is on weeknights from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key, the home of Southern talk, the home of Southern sports and talk, the heartbeat of Atlanta. Our radio station's website is wqeefm.radio12345.com. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is live streamed on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter /X, Twitch, LinkedIn, and now available on Instagram. My website to check out my previous shows and all my media work, you can check out my website at beacons.ai/Chris D. Pomay. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is again sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210, or email them at info@barrycullen.com. Speaking of Barry Cullen Chevrolet right now, the first ever all-electric Equinox EV goes up to 513 kilometers in battery range, 0 to 96 kilometers an hour in just 5.9 seconds, powerful engine, and it has an 8-year warranty for 160,000 kilometer warranty. So 8 years or 160,000 kilometer warranty. More details at barrycullen.com. And Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership has been family run and operated in Guelph since 1969. Great customer service, great product, and please check them out as well. You can also follow this content creator on TikTok at Live with CDP. And I want to say thank you to everyone subscribing to my TikTok channel. And also, guys, if you already haven't done so, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the like notification as well. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports Talk. If you're into webinars or podcasting, check out StreamYard.com. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. The audio version is available on these platforms: iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Pandora, Tuned In, and now on YouTube Music. So make sure when you are on YouTube Music app to hit subscribe to Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show as well. Finally, guys, you can email or text Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show at cpomay19@gmail.com, or you can text the show at 519-820-7188. Any comments, questions, suggestions, feedback would be greatly appreciated as well. And also, guys, I am on Cameo. Check out cameo.com, type in Chris Pomay, and make sure you request the video from yours truly, and all the proceeds from my cameo videos will go to my radio and media work as well. Again, I want to say thank you to Howard Simon for coming on here today. And I want to say thank you to everyone watching this live stream and on audio platforms as well, and on WQEE 99.1 FM, and sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet here in Guelph. And again, I hope you guys can tune into my next show tomorrow, sponsored by BarryCullen.com, Friday, August 2nd, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 on the West Coast, with special guest stand-up comedian Jenny Sykes. Have a great evening, everybody, and enjoy the football games, either between Houston and Chicago, NFL, or BC and Winnipeg. We'll see you back here tomorrow night at 5 o'clock on the East Coast time. And again, thank you to Howard Simon, and that's about it. Thank you again, everybody, for watching and listening to Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show.